Hey, Pre-AP, let's talk about this week's lab. By now, you already know that you won't be going back to school this year. That makes some of you happy and maybe some of you sad. I know it kind of sucks for graduating seniors. But most of the class is not seniors, so let's talk about method overloading. Last week, you learned about passing parameters, and method overloading is all about passing parameters, but instead of passing just one, it's the ability to pass multiple parameters to a method that has basically the same function but needs more parameters. So it has the exact same name, and I've asked you to read through and look at this code, study the drawbar code, and notice the first method drawbar only receives one integer named length and knows what to do with it. It's going to print a star. Whereas the second method named drawbar has two parameters, the integer length and a string named mark. Now the thing about overloading methods is it's dependent on how many parameters there are, the order they're in, and the parameters you pass to them. So the first method called drawbar10, Java knows to go back up here to the top method because it only has one parameter. Whereas in the second method called drawbar5, comma, @, it's looking for something that's compatible with both an integer and a string. Remember, strings are in double quotes. And so it's going to go up to the second drawbar method because it matches in parameter types. It has an integer and it has a string, and it's ready for the two of them. So you have to think about passing parameters. How many are you passing and who's receiving it? And getting that method, that overloaded method, again, it's a method by the same name, ready to receive multiple parameters if that's what's required. So your lab this week is focused very much on this concept. And if you go back and read display box, I didn't have you write this program, but we're going to use this as the foundation of our lab this week, which is display box part 2 on the next page. Modify the drawbox application to ask the user if a specific character should be used for the display. Use a prompt. You want to enter a new character. Enter Y for yes. Then we use a string comparison to see if they answered yes, and we ignore the case. And so you're going to see that in the code. If the user types a yes, prompt the user for a new character. Otherwise, the default character is used. You should use an overloaded drawbox and drawbar methods. So you're going to create a new drawbox to receive extra parameters. You're going to create a new drawbar to receive extra parameters. So that's your challenge. You're going to have to write, I don't know, 6 or 8 lines of code. So let's take a look at what's happening here. In Canvas, I've titled this Week 5, Chapter 7, Method Overloading. I've gone over the basic concept, and I've assigned your coding lab, part 2 of 2. And so in this, I'm giving you part of the shell of Drawbox 1 and part of the shell of Drawbox 2. So the main method is coming out of Drawbox 2, and what's great about that is I've given you all the hints that you need to know to create your overloaded method here in red and here in red. And by looking at this second part of the main method, you can see that you're going to have to take a response, compare that response equals 0, or that tests for a true-false condition, and then see what character they want to use. Boxchar is the new character, so that's a string that they input for you. And then drawbox needs to receive the height, the width, and the new boxchar. So that right there has to correlate to what you create in the first overloaded method that accepts 3 parameters. So you just have to learn how to handle this. Now, what may happen is you, just like this one did, the height is used to control the for loop, but the width is passed down to drawbar and becomes the length in drawbar. So what's going to happen is when you now create a new method that handles box char, you have to now handle the mark instead of the star. This becomes the variable mark, this, and is the second parameter passed in the drawbar call coming out of the new method. The new method is going to call drawbar, pass it the width, and pass it the new mark that the user entered, or the box char. We're going to call it mark. And then it will replace the character inside the box in this method that you write. So the new method here corresponds to the new method here, and will receive the width and the new mark to use to draw the box. Otherwise, it's going to do a standard draw box height and width, which just uses the original method. So you are using this call to this method, which then passes two parameters down to this method. And you need to spend some time working on this, thinking through it. And again, make a copy of fully functional code with your name at the top up here where I have student name. I want to see all of this code and your output in a single screen. Print onto a Word document and submit your Word document for this week. Thanks a lot. Have a great week. Don't wait till the end of the week to get this done. Get your work done early in the week. Then that way you got the rest of the week off. So let's wrap this up early this week and have a good week.